There are people who seem harmless at first. People who initially appear friendly, warm, even charming. But over time, their true energy begins to show. Without you realizing, they manipulate you, drain your energy, make you doubt yourself, and if you're not paying attention, they can turn your life into chaos that becomes difficult to escape. Carl Jung studied the shadow hidden in human behavior and revealed signals that can warn you when someone will bring problems into your life. In this video, I'm going to show you these signals. Pay attention to what you'll learn today because you'll be able to detect people who can destroy your peace early on, and most importantly, you'll know how to protect yourself from them before it's too late. So stay until the end, because you've already made the most intelligent decision, to learn how to protect your valuable peace from these people. Trust your energy signals. When someone transmits something strange to you, trust that feeling. I'm sure this has happened to you. You meet someone for the first time, and although everything seems normal, something inside you doesn't feel right. They haven't done anything wrong or said anything strange, but there's something in their gaze, their tone of voice, their presence that makes you uncomfortable for no apparent reason. This is where many people make the mistake of ignoring these feelings. Our rational mind tells us, don't judge without knowing them, maybe I'm overreacting, I have no proof that something is wrong. But the unconscious mind knows. Carl Jung spoke about how we pick up invisible signals before our mind processes them consciously. He called this the collective unconscious, a system of information we inherit across generations that allows us to perceive dangers before we can explain them. In other words, your intuition isn't magic or paranoia, it's a warning signal that comes from a deeper part of your psyche. Let me share something. One day, a friend introduced me to someone. This person was educated, spoke well, smiled at the right moment, but something about their presence left me unsettled. I couldn't explain it, but there was a sensation in my chest, in my stomach, as if my body was telling me, something doesn't fit here. I decided to ignore it. After all, how could I judge someone without a real reason? Months passed, and over time, I realized this person wasn't who they claimed to be. Behind their friendliness was a clear pattern of manipulation, two-faced behavior, and falseness. That's when I understood something important. Energy doesn't lie, but we often refuse to listen to it. If I had trusted my instinct from the beginning, I would have saved myself many problems. It's not magic, it's survival. Jung explained that intuition is a form of unconscious knowledge, information we capture before we can verbalize it. Our brain can read micro-expressions, tone of voice, body language, and subtle signals that reveal someone's true intentions, even when that person tries to hide them. When you see someone and feel a strange sensation, what's actually happening is that your unconscious has detected behavioral patterns similar to past dangerous situations. Perhaps you caught a fleeting expression of contempt, perhaps their smile wasn't sincere, perhaps their tone of voice didn't match their words. But since your conscious mind can't explain it in words, you feel it as a simple intuition. And here comes the most important part: most people ignore these signals because they can't rationally justify them. That's the worst mistake you can make. How do you differentiate between real intuition and paranoia? Obviously, we can't live distrusting everyone, but we can learn to listen to our intuition without ignoring or exaggerating it. Here's a key difference: intuition is subtle but persistent. If something doesn't feel right from the first moment, and that feeling remains present over time, you should pay attention to it. Paranoia is explosive and constantly changing. If you feel extreme distrust toward many people, and your perceptions change constantly, it might be more an internal fear than a real signal. Jung said that the unconscious knows before consciousness. So the next time you feel that inexplicable sensation about someone, don't ignore it. Because many times, that small initial discomfort is the only warning you'll receive before it's too late. Pay close attention because this second point will relate to the last one in this video. Now that you know energy doesn't lie and that your intuition can perceive what your mind hasn't yet processed, there's something else you need to understand. Not all people who generate a strange sensation in you do it in an obvious way. Some don't attack you, don't openly manipulate you, don't even seem harmful at first glance. But every time you talk with them, every time you share a moment by their side, you feel drained. It's as if something inside you slowly turns off. You lose enthusiasm, you lose mental clarity, and without realizing it, you end up exhausted, without energy, and without clear reasons to feel that way. Carl Jung said that some people, unable to find their own internal source of energy, take it from others. These are the so-called emotional vampires, and the most dangerous thing is that at first, they can seem harmless or even charming. I'll tell you something. Some time ago, I met someone who seemed like an incredible person. They were always there to listen, always had an interesting story to tell, always found a way to make others pay attention to them. They had charisma, ease with words, a magnetic energy. But there was a problem. After each conversation with that person, I felt empty. At first, I didn't understand why. We hadn't talked about anything negative, there had been no discussions or conflicts. But somehow, every interaction left me with less energy than I had before. Over time, I realized what was happening. This person didn't talk to connect, they talked to absorb. Their conversations weren't a balanced exchange but a monologue disguised as interest. Their presence wasn't support but a constant demand for attention and validation. And the most concerning thing was that their emotional exhaustion became mine. That's when I understood one of the most dangerous dynamics between human beings. Some people don't harm you directly, they wear you down slowly until they leave you without your own energy. Jung said that people who haven't integrated their shadow tend to project it onto others. This means their lack of energy, their anxiety, or their internal chaos end up becoming part of your emotional burden. Here are 3 key signs that someone is draining your energy. 1. Whenever you talk with them, the conversation revolves around their problems. No matter how the chat begins, it always ends up being about their complaints, their frustrations, their conflicts. They don't look for solutions, they just look to dump their emotional weight on you. 2. They make you feel guilty if you're not available for them. If you try to set boundaries, they make you feel selfish. If you take time for yourself, they make you notice how much they need you. It's a subtle manipulation that forces you to be present even when you know you need to step away. 3. When you're away from them, you feel relieved instead of missing them. This is a definitive sign. When a person truly adds to your life, their absence feels like a void. But when someone has been draining you, their absence feels like a breath of fresh air. The psychological reason behind this: people who absorb others' energy don't always do it consciously. Many times, they do it because they never learned to manage their own shadow, their own internal void. And not knowing how to fill that space with their own light, they seek to steal the light of others. But here's the most important thing: you are not responsible for healing these people. You don't have the obligation to carry their emotional chaos. If someone is draining you, you have the right to protect your energy and step away, because if you don't, little by little, you'll burn out without realizing it. There's a form of manipulation more dangerous than any direct aggression. It's subtle, almost imperceptible, and can destroy trust without you realizing. It's when someone makes you doubt your own reality. Carl Jung said that what we deny in ourselves, we project onto others. And some people, instead of facing their own shadows, impose them on you. This type of manipulation doesn't happen with obvious screams or threats. It happens in normal conversations, in small gestures, in words disguised as concern. That never happened, you're imagining it, you're overreacting as always, I never said that, you're confused. And little by little, you start to doubt your perception. I'll tell you something: some time ago, someone close to me used to make me feel as if my emotions weren't valid. If I expressed that something bothered me, the response was always the same: that's not a big deal, you always dramatize things, if it were really a problem, you wouldn't be the only one seeing it. At first, I ignored it. I thought maybe I was exaggerating, that perhaps I was the one seeing things incorrectly. But over time, I began to notice a pattern. Every time I tried to talk about something that affected me, they made me feel like I was the problem. And the worst part is I started to believe it. I constantly asked myself, am I being too sensitive? Is my perception untrustworthy? Maybe the problem is me and not what's happening. That's the real danger of this type of manipulation. They don't attack you directly, they make you doubt yourself until you start to nullify yourself. This phenomenon has a name in psychology: gaslighting. It's a form of manipulation in which someone makes you question your memories, emotions, and perceptions. Jung explained that people who don't face their shadow project their own conflicts onto others, and one way to do this is by convincing themselves that the problem is you. The goal of gaslighting isn't just to win an argument, it's to make you feel you can't trust your own mind. Because when you doubt yourself, you become dependent on external validation. And when you depend on external validation, you're easier to control. Signs that someone is manipulating your perception. 1. They constantly change the story to confuse you. What they said yesterday, today they deny. What they did a week ago, today they claim never happened. And when you try to point it out, they accuse you of being forgetful or misinterpreting things. 2. They make you feel your emotions aren't valid. Every time you express what you feel, they minimize your reaction, make you feel you're exaggerating, that you're crazy, or that you always react this way. 3. They isolate you from other people so you don't have another perspective. They tell you that others don't understand the situation, that only they know what's really happening. They distance you from people who could help you see the truth. 4. After talking with them, you feel more confused than before. Instead of feeling clarity, you end up wondering if what you lived was real or not. You struggle to differentiate between what happened and what they tell you happened. If you've ever felt this with someone, it's a warning sign. Trust your memories and emotions. If something made you feel bad, it's valid. You don't need another person to tell you if your perception is correct or not. Surround yourself with people who provide clarity. Talk with someone you trust and compare your perception with others. Many times, an external observer can help you see what you, within the manipulation, cannot notice. If they constantly make you feel like the problem is you, it's time to reconsider that relationship. Because a person who truly loves you will never play with your perception to make you doubt yourself. There's an even more subtle type of manipulation than gaslighting. It's not about making you doubt your reality, but about loading you with another person's internal conflicts until you make them your own. Carl Jung said that everything a person rejects in themselves, they project onto others. That is, instead of recognizing their own defects, fears, or insecurities, they place them on someone else, and many times, that person is you. Perhaps they've accused you of being selfish when in reality, they were the ones who acted that way. Or they've told you you're too cold when they're the ones who can't handle their emotions. Or they've made you feel guilty for something that wasn't even your responsibility. When someone doesn't face their own shadow, they make you carry it. I'll tell you something. Some time ago, I met someone who always had problems with others. They complained that people betrayed them, treated them badly, that everyone was selfish and manipulative. But observing their behavior, I realized something: they were the ones doing exactly what they criticized in others. They despised those who didn't agree with them, demanded loyalty but didn't offer it, always had a story in which they were the victim and others were the villains. And the most curious thing was that they tried to make me believe I was like that too. They told me I wasn't empathetic enough, that I didn't value them enough, that I was acting just like the people they hated so much. And for a while, I began to doubt, am I really being selfish? Is the problem me? But then I understood what was happening. They didn't want to see their own shadow, so they tried to put it on me. They didn't want to accept that their behavior was toxic, so they needed someone else to carry the blame. And when they couldn't achieve that with me, they walked away and looked for another person they could. Learn to differentiate what's yours from what isn't. If someone accuses you of something, do an honest analysis. If you really made a mistake, accept it. But if you feel they're imposing something that doesn't correspond to you, reject it. Set clear boundaries. If you detect that someone is constantly making you carry their emotional chaos, walk away. It's not your responsibility to heal what they don't want to face. There are people who enjoy your company, who admire you, who share moments with you, but deep down, they can't stand to see you shine. They don't say it openly, they don't attack you directly, they don't do anything obvious that you can point to with certainty. But every time you advance, every time you achieve something important in your life, their attitude changes. They stop congratulating you, they minimize your achievements, they find a way to downplay what you've accomplished. And if you pay attention, you'll realize it's not a coincidence. Carl Jung explained that envy is nothing more than a shadow projected onto others. When someone hasn't worked through their own internal conflicts, when they haven't healed their own frustrations, they can't bear to see someone else achieve what they haven't achieved. And the most dangerous thing about this is that many times, these people aren't far from you. They're not strangers, not obvious rivals, they're friends, they're family, they're people who surround you but silently feel resentment about your growth. I'll tell you something, I knew someone who was always in my close circle, someone who appeared to be a great friend, someone who was always there, until I started to grow. Every time I achieved something important, their attitude changed. Their words were no longer supportive but disguised doubt. It's not that big a deal, are you sure this will work? There are a lot of people doing the same thing, I don't know if it's worth it. At first, I thought they simply wanted to help me be realistic. But over time, I noticed a pattern. It wasn't objectivity, it wasn't advice, it was a subtle attempt to minimize my achievements. And the most interesting thing is that this person had no problem celebrating other successes. But when it was me who advanced, when it was me who achieved something, it became uncomfortable. That's when I understood something important. Envy rarely shows itself in an obvious way. It doesn't always come in the form of open hatred or evident attacks. Many times, it comes disguised as friendship, as support, as closeness. Because there are people who want you close, but only as long as you don't shine brighter than them. Envy doesn't always show itself with aggressive words. Many times, it hides in small gestures, in subtle reactions that reveal what someone really feels. If when you share good news with someone, their reaction isn't sincere joy but indifference or discomfort, pay attention. If instead of congratulating you, they try to find flaws in what you've achieved, if they fill you with doubts, if somehow they make your achievement seem less than it is, it's a sign. If you notice they celebrate other successes but when it's your turn, they become distant or cold, there's something behind their attitude. If every time you advance in life, they start to distance themselves little by little, it's not coincidence. It's not that you're changing too much, it's that their shadow can't tolerate your light. Jung said that when someone doesn't recognize their own shadow, they end up projecting it onto others. People who feel envy many times aren't conscious that they feel it. They don't see themselves as envious, they don't accept that their words, their attitudes, their coldness come from a place of resentment. That's why, instead of facing their own internal conflicts, they channel that energy into trying to stop you, not always in an evident way, not always with direct attacks, but with subtle phrases that plant doubt in you. If you're not aware of this, their influence can make you start to limit yourself without realizing. It can make you slow down your pace, reduce your ambitions, feel guilty for wanting more. And if you don't cut the tie in time, it can make you dim your own light to avoid making others uncomfortable. You don't need to confront these people. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to demonstrate to them that you deserve what you've achieved. The only thing you need to do is detect their signals and walk away. Surround yourself with people who truly celebrate your success, people who don't feel threatened by your growth but are inspired by it. Because when someone really appreciates you, your success doesn't make them uncomfortable. They don't slow you down. They don't fill you with doubts. On the contrary, they push you to keep moving forward. There are people who not only manipulate you, drain your energy, or silently envy you. There's a type of person who goes beyond all that, someone who, if you keep them close, can ruin your emotional and mental stability, and even your future. These people don't come with obvious danger signals. They don't arrive with a warning written on their foreheads. In fact, many times they present themselves as friends, as partners, as someone who seems to have a special connection with you. But over time, the pattern always repeats. They appear with force in your life, with intensity. At first, their presence is exciting, magnetic, captivating. But little by little, they begin to sow disorder, confusion, drama, instability. And before you realize it, you've become part of their chaos. Carl Jung spoke about people who live dominated by their shadow, those who haven't made their own internal conflict conscious, and instead of facing it, they carry it to every place they go, destroying everything in their path. I'll tell you something, some time ago, I met someone who had a different energy. They were someone with a strong presence, with an attractive personality, with a way of speaking that made you feel you were before someone special. From the beginning, their energy was intense. Conversations were never superficial, there were always deep emotions involved, stories loaded with intensity, moments that seemed taken from a movie. And at first, that captivated me. But over time, I began to notice a pattern: this person lived in chaos. They were always in the middle of problems, there was always a new drama, a crisis, a conflict with someone else. Their life was never stable, never at peace. And the worst part is that without realizing it, they were dragging me into their storm. What at the beginning seemed like intensity was now exhaustion. What seemed like a deep connection was now an emotional game. What seemed like authenticity was now an endless circle of problems, of ups and downs, of overflowing emotions. Until I understood something, this person didn't know how to get out of chaos because their identity was built around it. And by keeping me close, they were turning me into part of their disordered world. There's a difference between someone going through a bad moment and someone who constantly lives in chaos. If a person seems to have no stability in any area of their life, if there are always conflicts around them, if their past is full of turbulent stories with every person they've known, it's only a matter of time before you become the next victim of their storm. Look at their history. If every relationship they've had has ended in drama, if every friendship they've built has ended in conflict, if every opportunity in their life has been wasted by their own behavior, don't believe it will be different with you. You're not the exception. No one is. Jung said that until you make conscious what's in your unconscious, it will direct your life, and you'll call it destiny. And these people keep repeating the same patterns because they haven't become aware of their own shadow. They're not ready to change. They don't seek stability. And if you stay by their side, their storm will become yours. Don't try to rescue them. Don't try to change their pattern. Don't stay waiting for things to improve someday. If someone lives in chaos and refuses to get out of it, the only thing you can do is walk away. Protect yourself. Surround yourself with people with emotional stability. Create your own order, your own peace, and don't allow anyone to ruin it. Because if someone drags chaos to every part of their life, it's only a matter of time before they drag it into yours. If you've made it this far, you now understand something that many people take years to discover: not all people who come into your life are harmless. Some absorb your energy without you noticing. Others subtly manipulate you until they make you doubt yourself. Some project their own conflicts onto you, making you carry what isn't yours. And there are those who silently can't stand to see you shine and will do whatever it takes to dim your light. But the most dangerous of all is that person who lives in chaos and looks for others to drag down with them. Carl Jung taught us that our peace and our balance depend on recognizing the energies that surround us. It's not about living in fear, but about developing awareness. If you learn to detect these signals, if you take seriously the energy that others transmit to you, you can protect yourself before it's too late. Remember, this isn't selfishness. Walking away from someone who doesn't add to your life isn't coldness. Setting boundaries isn't an exaggeration. Trusting your intuition is your right and your responsibility. Because whoever doesn't protect their peace, sooner or later loses it.